Fellas, welcome back. This video is going to be all about training optimization, which, to keep it 100, most of you need, okay? Far too many guys fixate on nutrition, but honestly, to maximize progress, training is where it's at. So in this video, I'm going to be dropping 10 tips that transform my training to allow me to build the rig I have right now. So stay tuned. If you want to learn some shit about training, this video is for you. Let's go. Okay, so tip number one is called initiating with a working muscle. This is what I got from Ben Bukolski, who, for those of you that don't know, is a retired bodybuilder, super switched on guy, incredibly clever when it comes to training. As you'll see on my form, when I go into the stretch, there's a slight initiation, slight contraction with my bicep before I then go into the curl. This massively helps to just create more tension in the target muscle, obviously in this case being the bicep. So implement this, is fucking useful. This really helped me to actually grow my biceps because I really struggled to grow my biceps. I used to do dumbbell curls, hammer curls. It didn't fucking work for me. It wasn't until I started to use initiation with the working muscle plus actually cable work, they started to grow. So that's what's up. I mean, I'm giving bicep advice, but really and truly, my biceps still suck. It's been a long old game trying to grow them, but the consistency, slowly they're coming up, so we just got to continue with that. One good thing about Bali, well, many good things, one of the many good things about Bali is there's a lot of ladies, especially in the gyms. I'm sure you can see them all in the background, which always helps, doesn't it, to get you through a workout. Can't complain. Tip number two. So back in my bodybuilding days, when I was obviously on anabolics, which was for about 3.5 years, I used anabolics on and off. I would try and use as much load as possible at all times, and that worked for some muscle groups, those that I could contract naturally well, but other muscle groups I got fuck all response, even though, or should I say very little response, even though I was on anabolics, when really and truly on paper the response should have been, you know, exponential. And the reason why is because I was using too much load. Load is super important. We have to progressively overload muscle groups, but because I was using so much load, my ability to contract was dog shit on certain muscle groups, and as a result, they didn't grow well. So tip number two that I've come to identify over the years is load is important, but it's not everything. Master contraction first, dial man to muscle, then focus on load, progressive overload. And that tip is particularly relevant to a move like this. If I was using too much weight, the stimulus would just be shit. Because a muscle like a trap, it needs accuracy in a lift like this. So don't get me wrong, I'm still going as heavy as I can, but ensuring that I actually use my trap as opposed to just slogging weight from A to B. That being said, I'm gonna pump the weight up a little bit more.
An ocean for me. For weeks.
Okay, tip number three is dead stop reps. When I started dead stopping reps, my ability to connect was far superior. Similar to point one in terms of initiate with a working muscle, dead stopping basically allows you to initiate more efficiently. So very simple. As you go into the stretch on any exercise, pause, dead stop, and then go into the movement.
You should cry an ocean for me.
In fact, if there's anyone that I got this tip from, it's probably John Meadows. Rest in peace, what an absolute legend. For those of you that know John Meadows, what a goat. He was the absolute goat of, I'd say, training in general. He ended up passing away. I think it was, I can't remember, I think it was cardiovascular related. I know he had a heart attack before he actually passed, about a year before, but serious goat. Just to add on to what I've discussed so far, I really don't mean this in like a derogatory way, but it blows my head off how many people in gyms do not have a clue what they're doing. I say this to my clients all the time, like, you really do have to learn how to train and respect that training is a skill. And most people just do not know what they're doing. And as I said, I'm not saying that in a condescending way, it's more in a surprising way because there's so much information out there. You know, I think in theory, on paper, you kind of should know what you're doing. So fortunately, if you are on this video, all of these tips that I've learned should help substantially, or hopefully anyway. So obviously I'm training pull today. Now, again, back in like the bodybuilding era of my life when I was trying to add as much muscle as possible, my back was shit. And I was slogging some serious weight about. I used to barbell row like 140 for like 10 to 12 with pretty clean form as well. But my back just didn't grow. So when that's the case, guys, you do have to think outside the box, and that's massively what I had to do. So I reverted from like more of the free weight stuff and went to machines. Now, there is a big debate in the industry still, like what's better, free weights or machines. I think they're both amazing. And there's no rules to the game. Like, I love weighted dips, but then I don't do barbell rows. I'd rather do a Smith machine row because I feel it more. Just like, what else do I use? I love a split squat. That's obviously a free weight, but then I'll prefer to do a leg press because mechanically I don't suit a squat well. So for me, there's no rules to the game. You've got to use the piece of equipment that you connect best with and that also suits you mechanically. And when I say mechanically, I'm talking levers. So like, for example, when you're thinking about a squat, it's the ratio between your lower leg, your thigh, and your torso. So yeah, don't buy into what people push. It's all about what suits you, and that's why I said there's no rules to the game, essentially. When you're doing upper back work, you want to be able to obviously connect with it. Now, this is like a rhomboid focus pull down for me as opposed to a lat. So I'm pulling into my mid upper back like this as opposed to my lats down here. And a really useful thing that I've been doing over the past few years is basically just leaning on something and just retracting that upper back, squeezing your rhomboids together. And I'll do this for like 30 seconds before I then go into the set. And it just basically just helps to generate that mind to muscle connection. So the stimulation is on point when you're obviously in the set. So just something to do that's useful. Okay. Also not using straps. I do on a couple of sets, but not many on back, because my back doesn't need loads more muscle, if I'm honest. But my forearms do, so I'd rather sacrifice a little bit of back development to have better forearms, because my forearms fucking need some serious work. Let's go.
For weeks.
Okay, just while we wait for that guy to finish up. Tip number 5 is more is not more. Especially if you're an ectomorph like me, which is a naturally skinny dude. Doing more work, more sets, more reps does not equate to more growth. There's a sweet spot. If you do too much, you will not progress. If anything, you can actually go backwards. So find an amount of volume, which is reps and sets, that you can still get stronger each session without it absolutely running you into the ground. Personally, I like a low volume approach. I do like 2, max 3 working sets an exercise, and I do about 6 exercises in a workout, and that's what suits me well, sort of anywhere from 10 to 13, something like that working set. So yeah, more is not more. Okay, I'm running out of exercises and I've got quite a few tips left. I can't even remember how many tips I've done now. Let me check. Up to number 6, so, which is dialing mentally for sets. Especially when you are doing a low volume approach, you've got to switch on. My philosophy in regards to training is, obviously you want to maximize your physical potential as a guy, but you don't want it to detract from your career, because that is your number 1 priority. And obviously your personal life as well. You want to be able to have a life outside of training. So I only get my guys to train 4 times a week with weights. Now, when you're doing this, you need to dial in mentally to sets, because if you don't, the stimulus you provide the body will not be sufficient enough. So in my experience, I've found training 4 times per week works incredibly well, and it still allows you, well, still allowed me to progress my career to a decent extent. So yeah, dial in mentally when you are only training, say 4 times a week. So the drink I'm drinking is an intra-workout. In it, I've got 60 grams of Bataga, which is a carb powder, 10 grams of EAAs, essential amino acids, some pink salt, and electrolytes. And when you get to the stage of a workout like this, especially in Bali, because it's quite humid and hot, it's not that hot today, but normally fucking super sweaty. An intra-workout really helps to carry your ass, so that's why I like to use an intra-workout, especially in a hot climate like this. It fucking helps. Okay, last warm-up. Okay, next tip, fellas. So that's the Smith machine dead stop row boxed. The next tip is train at a tempo that you connect with. So I found that in the fitness industry, everyone says control the eccentric for like, I don't know, 3 to 4 seconds. I personally don't do that. I only control the eccentric when I feel like I need to, when I feel like I'm getting something from it. On an exercise like this, I opt for actually a bit of a quicker tempo on the negative, just because I feel like the concentric, the positive, is where I'm getting most of the juice. So, as you would have seen, quick tempo, rapid negatives, into the dead stop, and then a quick concentric. That's actually another tip I got from John Meadows, who liked to train like that. And yeah, for me, it's worked really well over the years. So certainly worth popping it into plan. Okay, into tip number 8, which is stretch a muscle under load. Now this I'm actually not doing as an exercise. This is simply just a stretch after having just done that heavy row. But you could use this as an actual stretching exercise, or you could do it on some form of pull down variation to really stretch the lat that way. But yeah, stretching under load I find is so useful for initiating muscle growth. Certainly helped me over the years. So I'll hold this for like 60 to 90 seconds just to shove more blood into the muscle after having just pounded it on the row. Okay, into the last exercise, which is abs. So let's run it up. Okay, tip number 9, which is actually one of the most important ones, and that is prioritize midsection development. I used to only really train abs when I was getting leaner, which I think is a massive mistake, because at the end of the day, abs are still a muscle. So for me, they need to be trained year round, especially when you're in a surplus, because 2 reasons. Obviously, when you're in a surplus, you're going to be actually able to add muscle. I believe you need to add more muscle to the midsection to improve how it looks from an aesthetic perspective. And secondly, by training your midsection when you're pushing, I find it keeps my midsection tighter, because when food climbs sort of north of 5,000 in terms of calories, it can distend your stomach, irrespective of if you're on GH and insulin and all that bullshit. So I like to train abs year round, and I've found from doing it, it's actually tremendously improved the quality of my midsection, and I'll throw some photos on screen to prove that point. So got to prioritize the midsection. Okay fellas, so yeah, workout wrapped. Pretty decent session, I'd say 8 out of 10. It's actually pretty difficult to get a good workout in when you are filming, but for the greater good, right? Anyway, tip number 10, which is your environment when you're training matters substantially. As you will have seen today, I've been training outside. I understand this is not going to be applicable to everyone, but if you can train outside, and when I say train outside, I'm not talking about swinging on monkey bars in the park. I'm talking about actually using good kit outside, then do make use of it. As I said, not everyone's going to be able to do that, but if you can, do it, because you're going to be obviously under natural light as opposed to fake artificial light, which is going to benefit you substantially from a health perspective. And on that topic, the next video will be more health specific. So if you are struggling a little bit with health issues, I don't know, chronic headaches, digestive distress, nervous system issues, your sleep's a mess, the next video should be of use. So if you aren't already, fellas, and you want to, drop, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next vid. That's enough waffle from me. Catch you in the next one.